do this, and I put on a little bit of lead-in music.
Ride my bicycle.
I didn't know he showed up in the Tour de France.
Yeah, he didn't. His relationship with Bernard Hinault was not terrific, based on their rivalry. Are you familiar with any of that?
Is that back in the 90s, 80s?
Yeah.
Okay.
They fought. They were on the same team, and Hinault was going for his, Longmont was a huge help. Much like some of the stars are now, where they're right there and being the wingman. And he said, "Yeah, next year, you're the guy." And he welched on the deal.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and it was bad. There, here you two teammates on the same team, and two of the best riders in the world, and they're fighting like cats and dogs. Just is.
Well, there's always got to be some kind of a competitional pull between every team almost.
It's
unless you have a super dominant rider, like, okay, we all bow down to you.
Well, both these guys were like generational talents. They just. It's hard. I mean, it's one of those things, when you've got two people who could legitimately lead teams of their own, on the same team. It's like, and, Pogačar is so much better than everybody else right now that even they've got like two other riders that could win the Tour de France in normal situation.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. It makes you kind of wonder, obviously as a talented rider, but I haven't got to see even one stage. I've been so busy this year. Yeah. But from the past season or two, you can just tell that's like up there with, I hate to say it, the Lance Armstrong kind of.
I've had the same. I turned to Peggy during one of the last things, or like one of the stages where he just absolutely crushed everybody.
Yeah.
And I'm going, I hope he's clean.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Because the technology, like everything else, the doping technology gets better.
Oh, yeah. I guess we'll see. Hey, welcome to Shop Talk Tuesday, as you're actually listening to us jibber-jabbering about the Tour de France. And I haven't got to see any of it. I've watched, actually, the start of the women's.
Nice.
Saw the first, it's kind of like a day delay. It's like, it was on day 3. And then on Peacock is day 1. But anyway, I would say it's a lot better broadcast than the Paris-Roubaix, where for the women's, because they botched that.
Yeah.
Horribly, which we talked about before. Like no announcers, just cut scenes and not knowing what the hell is going on. This one, at least they have 2 commentaries, and once you start into it, they start talking about the racers and the places, which is cool. That's why, Bob Roll and the other guy that everybody, the iconic voices of the Tour de France that people listen to. And these two, I recognize their voices from last year. I think they are. And it is a great representation, or better, what I've seen so far. Not nearly as polished and top-notch as the men's, which... that part I feel kind of, there's an imbalance because they had like an hour or 2-hour show before even the race started in the men's Tour de France. This one, it just starts right off. You're like already on the course.
Right.
And it's like, who's the teams? Like
Right.
I need a playbook.
They
Like
don't have the pregame show.
yeah, they need a pregame playbook of like who's to look out for, who's this, that, and other. They didn't have any of that, which is horrible because that's how you get hooked into watching a show or a sport like Tour de France, which is 4 hours long.
Yeah.
I mean, so you at least need that hook. Like here on any social media, you need like that 3 second, 2 second hook to get into it. And I would be very disappointed if I was one of the sponsors of those teams because you're paying a lot of money, right, to get that exposure.
Yeah.
And like, not necessarily it's the women's team's faults whatsoever. It's just the ecosystem I think needs to be leveled out.
My guess, and I've never been part of any television production other than this one, but
Welcome to the show.
my guess is since the women's Tour de France is relatively new, and they're probably, I don't know that it gets the ratings and all that and earns as much money as does the Tour de France, which is the greatest race in the world. So I think there's a little bit of that second fiddle stuff going on. There's probably still trying to figure out who their audience is. Are the same people watching the Tour men's watching the women's? I hope so. I mean, it's like, we might have been talking, I'm trying to think, we were talking about the WNBA.
Mm-hmm.
I actually kind of enjoy the WNBA more than I enjoy the NBA. The playmaking is amazing. So, and I think it's terrific seeing the women's Tour de France. It's just, it'll come along. I think it's early days. Plus, you probably got a lot of the people, that were involved with the Tour de France broadcast. That has to be exhausting. Day after day. You think about even, if these guys are staying in decent hotels, but they've got to get up and move every day practically to, much like the riders.
Yeah.
So anyway, I'm extremely happy to see this level of coverage based on when I was growing up, we'd get maybe
an article in the magazine or a
maybe
newspaper.
something, if you knew somebody had the New York Times, there was a guy, Samuel Apt, who would write about, the Tour and the Tour de France. So I guess from that perspective, I'm like, this is pretty good, seeing, and just the ability to unplug from the reality of life today and see the beauties of France and all these incredible athletes. It's just,
That's why I always liked watching the Tour de France because you get like a history lesson, which it's like they're on for 4 hours, so they got to figure out something else to talk about.
Plus, you're always going, what's up with that castle? Or chateau?
Exactly.
The one guy I dearly miss that was Paul Sherwin, who used to be Phil Liggett and Paul Sherwin, and he was really good at talking about various chateaus. And much to his credit, Bob Roll has really stepped up.
Yeah.
He's really talking about a lot of that stuff. I wish, because sometimes they don't get to talk about it, and the technology's there. I wish they would have this rolling subtext, like this is the chateau, whatever, or castle, dates to some little quick snippet. They could easily do that without the narration. But anyway, it's lovely. I love it.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. There's the progression. I shouldn't be so bitter and angry because, like, I have a daughter, right? I sit down to go watch the Paris-Roubaix, which is one of my favorite races. It's a one day. I can keep her attention for at least maybe an hour, being 10. But that was my opportunity to, like, show her women's racing and these awesome athletes. Yeah. And it just was nothing. And it's just, just horrifying, like all those, they do all that effort to get over there, to do those races, and that's what they're going to cover.
Well, I think, one thought that, and I don't know that this exists, but I wouldn't be surprised if there's some podcast, maybe broadcast by women about women's racing that might have been covering kind of, as an ancient Bronco fan, we used to turn off the network, NBC, CBS, ABC, whoever it was, and turn on KOA radio to listen to Bob Martin call the games.
Yeah.
Because he was local, he was into it, knew the team, knew the players, knew the coaches. So I'm hoping that there's, some analogy to KOA radio.
Yeah, I mean, if anything, that's an opportunity for
somebody to
actually an opportunity. So that leads to I mean, I was blown away by this, and this is where I realized they can do so much better with very little. We have the race up here called FoCo Fondo, which is a gravel local race. It's about 10 years now. I'm like, Sunday morning doing my thing, about ready to do my, Sprocket and Coffee show or whatever. And I noticed on my feed it popped up live. And I click on it, like, oh, what's this? They're probably just like a tool like me running around, saying things. But no, they had 2 announcers. They talked through the whole, just like the pros, and they were talking about the city, they were talking about the racers, and everything. And I'm like going, well, damn, if they can do it on a small micro level like this,
why not?
I mean, as long as you got the footage there and somebody's like, hey, I know all of us here in the States would probably, or around the world, have to watch it like on replay. But if you had a podcast like, okay, start your video now, and then they can do the whole commentary thing about the actual race, that'd be kind of cool. And yeah, exactly the same concept. I mean, think outside the box, because to the Tour de France, they did a lot better job, or at least some coverage versus no coverage. But this is where I want to leave it on. The conversation in piece is like, yes, they're getting steam and momentum in the women's sports arena. That's becoming more watched. It's one of those things that they build it, they will come. And if they put that much effort as they put in equally to the men's version of Tour de France, I think they would have as much, if not more, popularity and watch. There's a huge demographic that they're missing, and women like to watch women's sports. That's a huge open market. Oh, weird, huh? It's like back in the days of Trek when they went, let's make a women's specific design bike. Duh. And wasn't do too much. I mean, probably to some level for design and what have you, but part of it was marketing. But you can tell me how successful that was with Trek.
It was good. I mean, we pivoted to the women's market because there was a women's market that existed. And I think today's environment is very favorable for, probably a vastly improved, broadcast of the women's Tour de France, because they're going to be aware. I mean, we love watching. There's great women's hockey league. I don't think Colorado has a team yet, but we watch I think it's the Minnesota Frost out in Minneapolis, and they're a really good team. They're really fun to watch. And less fighting, which I kind of enjoy.
I kind of like the fights, but they're not as aggressive as they shut them down pretty quick now. The last couple. Games
I'd watch Olympic boxing if I wanted. Actually, one of the things I like about the Olympics is they shut them down pretty fast. It's like I don't want to.
It's a cultural thing with the hockey piece, but I think that being said, with brands and it basically goes where the paycheck is, right? So if the people that are paying for all this broadcasting and so forth and going to these networks and going, no, we'll sign, but you got to equal it up. They will do it. I mean, they'll figure it out. I mean, if their paycheck is directly affected by it, turns out it is the organization. If they're not getting, demands on that from the people that are signing the checks, like Trek and Specialized and Giant and the teams and the sponsors and everything else in between, I think that's a great way to be able to leverage that and equal the playing field. But that leads to the conversation today, and today's topic is like where we go from here as the bike industry, and looking at the top of the latest, watching the races, which talks about the teams and the brands and all that, and it's all that's the battleground of exposure. Like the Specialized won this one, and the Trek won this stage, and Silka Chain was on all of them, or whatever. So it's a big marketing steamroll kind of thing, but those going to the manufacturers and the brands in our current states in the United States. And by the way, do feel free to throw in the chats. I am keeping an eye on it. So if you have a question for John, actually I should probably introduce John if you haven't heard or seen him. John's a family friend of ours, was our original Trek rep at Parker Bikes back in the late 80s,
yeah.
where we first met him. Super friend with my parents through the shop and all those years. He's been in the industry for over 50 years, from working at Denver Spoke, the Big Wheel, the Big Ring,
Big Wheel,
the
Park
Big
Hill
Wheel.
Bike Shop. I
Yeah.
like bikes. I mean,
to working at Trek as a product developer, product manager.
First I was the territory rep,
Oh, that's right.
which I had Colorado, Utah, Wyoming, New Mexico, and part of Nebraska, which is a lot of territory.
That's a lot of land.
But then I went in to be the jazz bike product manager.
Yeah, jazz.
Yes, yes, yes. And then moved up into the Trek product management role. But yeah,
Yeah.
John Burke actually used to be the Trek rep out here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you mentioned
John
that before.
Burke is the president and part of the family that owns Trek.
Yeah, he's the second generation owner.
Yes.
Where Trek just celebrated their 50 years.
Yep.
So companies like Trek and Specialized and Giant, they provide the iconic brands that we pretty much all know within the cycling industry. But there's a sub-level of wholesalers, and those are the ones that supply to bike shops for their parts, their wheels, their tubes and tires, and there's several other of them. And if you have watched my show before, I rattle off about like 10 different acronyms like JBI, BTI, QBP, HLC, and others. And those are the ones that are bringing in inventory from all these different brands, from Silca to Muck-Off to Shimano to SRAM, everything.
Connex.
Yeah, Connex, warehouse it here and then distribute to the bike shops. Well, there was a podcast on MBDA. If you're a bike shop and interested about MBDA, there is a link in the description below. But with the MBDA podcast,
NBDA is National Bicycle Dealers Association. So
Yep.
Bike shop retailers.
yeah, exactly.
Sorry.
They have a series of podcasts. They're really good about covering things, conversations, working with bike shops and so forth. So they also partnership is a split with vendors. And these vendors had a podcast talking about the current state of the state. And you watched it and I watched it. And there was QBP and several others, Bike
Surrey.
Flights, and Surly was
Surrey.
on it. That's right. And when I kind of watched it, I felt like, I mean, they were saying changes of the industry, current state, but it seemed like they were still off. Like they're not quite getting it in a sense. Like, or they're holding their cards pretty close to them, but they don't seem like they're really working for the opportunities that are presented out there or possible for them, or maybe they are and it's just something they're testing, and it just seemed like they were just not quite there.
You know, I think what I'd maybe put it a little bit different way. I think whether it's the bicycle brands or the wholesalers, you know, those type of brands, they have a little bit different perspective because everybody's trying to figure out this chaos that we're in. And
Right.
you know, there's been a lot of different moves throughout the years. Like, you know, a lot of brands only used to be sold, you know, to bike shops. Now a lot of them are going consumer direct. Everybody's trying to understand where the market is going, and sometimes the IBDs and the major suppliers, the distributors, are in step with each other, and sometimes I think those interests actually diverge. All of them, you know, bottom line is you got to pay attention to your bottom line. Where is the money coming from?
True.
And sometimes it's not the same. You know, it's tough. You know, you know, I've worked in bike shops. I've been on all sides of this industry, and you know, people, you know, there's a lot of blood, sweat, and tears in support of different brands, and all of a sudden they make a decision. You're like, wait a second.
Yeah.
And they just do. You know, it's like another former Trek colleague of mine, Harry Spahar, used to say, friends are friends, but business is business. So sometimes it's just, you know, the two tracks kind of diverge a bit, and sometimes they share. It's a fascinating time in the industry. It's a difficult and very challenging time at the same
Yeah.
time, as we saw in that podcast from the NBDA. So
Yeah, it's well, the underlining tone of that they all acknowledged immediately is it's really become a service-heavy environment.
Yep.
In other words, they're selling more tires and wheels and cables and housing and consumables, which I should, by the way, mention this show is actually brought to you by Bicycle Wheel Warehouse. And you can see the wheels right above me. I've brought these in just because I need to have wheels on hand to service my local community bikes that I'm doing service. And what's really great about them is they do have the classic rim brake skewer, quick release, lower single speeds to 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 speeds. And in addition to, they do have mountain bikes, classic 26ers, rim brakes as well. In addition to the newer stuff, the gravel bikes with through axles and all that. So having these wheels on hand, I'll be able to take care of that customer in faster time versus turning around and going, hey, I got to order a wheel set for you. I got something. I got, what I stocked myself is what fits my niche specifically, because there's a lot, there's a huge rabbit hole of wheels out there. But as you know, and as you've spec'd and everything, a wheel set can actually change and transform that ride to
exactly. I was having the exact thought through personal experience. Yeah, I mean, you can. The cool thing about these wheels you're carrying is that you can take it and put it on a bike from the 70s, the 60s, 70s, 80s, and actually transform that ride. Because back then we were tracking as lightest as possible, and the narrowest is going to be more aerodynamic, lighter weight, all that type of thing. Turns out that's not so much true.
Yeah, right.
And it actually goes kind of the opposite way for a whole variety of, we could talk a whole show about wheels.
Just about wheels, but yeah.
But the cool thing is you can transform your ride. I had my cycle, which you were kind enough to work on, and I think you featured a little bit in the broadcast.
Yep.
That was like the magic potion finally for that bike. Beautiful 853 frame built by a former colleague at Sherwin. And I finally got the right wheel set on it. It's like, I love riding that bike. The ride is just fabulous. So
Exactly.
It can have a transformative effect to your bike.
So if you're looking for wheels, I got a coupon code from Renault Guy Bicycles for 25% off. So help you get into that wheel set that you may need for your next ride.
Yep.
Well, back to those wholesalers, and they're noticing the service is becoming definitely, as we know, as bike shops. And I want to focus a little more on the service aspect for a little bit first, the wholesaler aspect, because you're right, they have their own drum they have to beat. But unfortunately, they're going through a lot of struggles because we got tariffs, we got global gas prices gone up. I talked to a couple of my vendors, and they're like, yeah, shipping containers coming over from Taiwan or anywhere is tripled to quadrupled in price what they're used to. So that's the added expense just because of the gas prices for the shipping containers. Then they hit the tariff increase, and then they have to transport it within the United States, which also gas increase for crude or for diesel to transport for trucks and all that. So products for those vendors, I mean, with those challenges, and as being a product manager, put your product manager hat on. I know that's going to be kind of dust it off. Looking at the current market, what is selling, which we got a little bit of traction, a little bit of data within the last year, what our current state is of what people are buying. What do you think the manufacturer is going to be mostly focusing on? First, bikes, and second, parts and accessories.
Good question.
Who stumped you on that one?
Yeah, I mean, from the bike perspective, I mean, we're continuing to see the gravel market grow. It's funny too, because the way things happen, like when some category like that would break through, it would take years to develop, and the development, the rapidity of development of gravel bikes has been phenomenal. I mean, it's been really fast.
Yeah.
What used to take 10 years is now taking like, maybe a model year, 1 year or less. So, that is a huge part of it. Mountain bikes, I think that's reflecting, it's interesting because sometimes there's this idea interchange, sometimes the gravel bikes have become more off-road capable, but now they're starting to split too, because there's the quote-unquote all-road bike, which is like, that's a bike you can ride pavement or gravel road or whatever. Then there's more full-on gravel, longer, long wheelbase, larger wheels, all that type of thing, wider tires. And then there's this, almost like a flat bar mountain bike or or a drop bar mountain bike. So anyway, that's a huge part of things. I think the other thing everybody's trying to deal with is e-bikes, which is a lot of market pressures with that is, all the things you talked about, e-bikes. I mean, a good e-bike, something that I would be interested in is probably going to be somewhere in the $1,500 to $2,000 at a start.
Oh yeah.
And then it goes way up from there.
Yeah.
But it's like, how are those sold? There's a lot of direct sales by a lot of brands we'd never heard of, 6 months ago or something.
Yeah.
And people are like, sure, I'll try that, but, so there's e-bikes. I would say the service component is a huge thing, particularly at retail, because, it's hard to stock all this stuff. Whenever the market, the product demands are that dynamic, it's kind of like, where do I put my money? I mean, you can literally make a bad bet.
Yeah.
And that bet would be
I bet they feel like they're in Vegas right now and the house is winning.
Spinning the roulette wheel.
Yeah, blinds. Put it all on black. Put it on e-bike.
I have to tell you, one of the things I wish to God I would have taken a picture of, sorry, I'm diverging, but I was at the Interbike show when it was in Las Vegas, and I went by a 21, I think it was a 21 table, and there was Antonio Campagnolo, Keizo Shimano, I think maybe somebody from the Maeda family, which was Sun Tour. It was really funny. It was like Shimano, Campy, they were all gambling at the same table.
Oh.
I probably could have made a poster of that.
Anyway, take a picture of that.
But yeah, it's for the dealer right now to respond. So, the one thing you can focus on is what your customers have now and how to make that better. Like we were talking about wheel upgrades or just tune-ups or, cleaning the thing up and doing that beautiful ceramic coating, finish or whatever is lovely because, you've got, one, you can kind of, put your product manager hat on and say, hey, Mr. Customer, I can make that ride better by doing X, Y, and Z. Yeah. And then they go out and they go, dude, that, you changed my life.
Yeah.
You changed my ride, changed my life. So I think that's part of what we're seeing here. It's a little bit more, maybe a little bit less chaotic. Maybe you can respond more quickly and the dollars aren't as, as you're responding to the service needs, you're not blowing, thousands, tens of thousands of dollars on stuff that may or may not sell.
Yeah. Well, that's definitely at the shop level. They really narrowed it down to what they know that's going to fit their market, which is going to echo upwards to the wholesalers like, oh, we're going to need to stock more of this because it seems to be selling and reselling. As in bike prices and on my channel and various others, there's always this call of bikes are too expensive. And why are they so expensive? And the brands have really shifted to the more expensive market because, well, several reasons. But one is like less boxes, less moving, inventory, and a higher profit for them. Well, that's shifted. That those bikes are not selling as much, and it's kind of flooded. And you got Walmart coming in with Ozark Trail brand and bringing in a gravel bike for $288, a mountain bike for $500, and also I think a $700-800 mountain bike that actually doesn't look too bad. I mean, spec pretty well. Yep. And knowing that is hitting the market and selling through in mass quantities, because you're talking about 3,500 stores of Walmart versus how many bike shops there is, about the same. Do you think Trek Giant and Specialized and Pond Holdings that carries a whole bunch of brands. You think they're going to shift a couple models to bring in that lead-in bikes with those big brand names?
I would hope so. I mean, I think the one thing we should touch on too is that all those upper end brands with these bikes, you literally can go spend $15,000 on a bicycle right now, which just still blows my mind.
Yeah, it's like,
but
whoa.
part of what we should mention is that a number of the factories that build the frames and wheels and stuff like that in Asia, specifically China, we were talking about the Tour de France earlier, and one of the teams was riding X-Lab bikes.
Yeah.
And they are one of these ones where all of a sudden that's direct to consumers. So, it may not have the quote unquote prestige or whatever trappings of a particular brand, Trek Specialized, some of the legacy European brands. But you're getting an extremely lightweight, really good looking frame with a brand you may not have heard of until it popped up on the internet for literally thousands of dollars less.
Yeah.
So that's part of the pressure here.
Yeah.
It's interesting because, one analogy too is like if you looked at car prices, I mean, a low priced new car right now is $30,000 plus.
Yeah.
I mean, it's almost like, and part of what it is, there's so much of the people out there, there's so much money at the upper end. Like a minority of people are driving sales of everything, houses, bikes, cars, everything in the United States, a minority. So they're no longer really paying a lot of attention just to, the regular average Joe or Jane.
Yeah.
And that's part of what we're dealing with right now. And everybody's trying to make money, and as you said, the higher priced bikes, they're typically making more money, or at least they used to before X-Labs and all those guys showed up.
Yeah.
So
That's got to sting.
Yeah. Because I mean, part of what you're paying for with that Trek or Specialized is those really good racing teams they have. All those guys. They got to pay for that somehow. So it's chaotic.
Yeah, I bet you're really happy that you're retired and not in those conversations and board meetings. Like, this is tough.
Yeah, I mean, it's to borrow our some friends in Australia, they'd say hard yards. These are some really hard yards right now. There's definitely kind of like some chaos, unsettling as we look to the future. Mm-hmm. And actually, the chaos also extends even to the e-bike, Murray, because there's all this pressure with these, brands we've never heard of, and you might go to Advanced Auto Parts, and I don't know if they carry them or not, but there's probably some of the auto parts stores that carry these little e-moto bikes that can go 40 miles an hour or whatever.
Yeah.
And I was talking to somebody because those drive me crazy because you got young unlicensed riders on bicycles without licenses, VIN numbers, driver education, all the stuff that usually goes with riding on the streets. But I was getting my haircut last week. I think I told you about this, and my barber goes, "But yeah, you would have wanted one as you could." I said, "You bet."
Yeah.
It looks like fun, but it's another one of these things. And that NBDA, sorry, I'm going to try and circle back, reel it back.
Reel it back, John.
One of a guy from SRAM was on, one of the founders of SRAM, and he was saying one of the dangers we see with these e-bikes for kids right now is kids don't pedal. And if kids don't pedal, then, we're not going to, is somebody going to come to that later in life? Maybe not, know. And, when I was growing up, the kids market was huge. I mean, one of the earliest bike boom I can remember was the Stingray boom, 20-inch wheel, banana seat, butterfly bars, all that stuff. That was huge. Yeah. And there's nothing like that now. I mean, the last we had of that was the BMX boom back in the 80s. But, that's, even that has, there's all these people, in fact, there's people my age still BMX racing. Yeah. It's pretty wild. And they're blowing tons of money on BMX bikes. So anyway, it's a very chaotic, dynamic time. I mean, there's definitely money to be made there, but you definitely want to watch what you're doing.
Well, also the state legislations and laws are all over the place. I know NBDA is trying to help reel it in. People for Bikes are trying to reel it in, so it's more consistent across the board. And also responsibility for battery recycling and all that. And so that's a huge conversation that definitely needs to move over to the NBDA, because there's a lot of articles there. But looking at the manufacturers, and you're seeing still a growth in e-bikes. Gravel is still there, but you know, Trek came out with their Checkpoint full suspension. Was it last year? And you know, they're still trying to bring out the new to kind of get people excited. But the state of the state is, a lot of people are like in my scenario where don't really have much money to spend on a new bike or even on a new car. So that's where the huge used market hits. And I see Trek starting to leverage that with their Red Barn refresh. So they're kind of tapping into that. I think the Pros Closet is still doing pretty good with their used upper end bikes.
They went through some really rough times.
Yeah.
They've reorganized.
They're
and back at it. Yeah.
They're at it now. And they're advertising, they seem to be moving units. And that's where a lot of my, you know, customers are coming from, is, you know, refreshing old new rides, that kind of thing. But what would be like, I'm gonna pick on Trek a little bit, because you know Trek a little bit better because you worked for them for a while, and you know John Burke and all that. And I feel like they're at a disadvantage, especially selling bikes in the United States, due to the fact that Specialized is backed by Merida, by their own 30% by Merida, which is a manufacturer of bikes, which is, I think, probably the second largest. The biggest largest is Giant.
It's Giant, Merida, Ideal.
Ideal. So, you know, X Labs came out of China out of nowhere. They were making bikes for other brands for a good, 20 years?
It might still be.
And still be, like Giant is. I don't think, I mean, you can tell me I'm wrong, but Trek's had a big disadvantage because they have to go through those manufacturers now to have their bikes built. So they still have to have their markup. Specialized, and specifically Giant can go toe-to-toe with X Labs pricing and do the same thing. How will Trek be able to navigate around that?
Well, you know, it's challenging. There's a number of things, you know, that they'd have to look at, you know, really focus on where they are making money right now, and they're making some hard decisions. There's been some layoffs at Trek, as there have been at everywhere.
Yeah.
You know, so Trek is not alone in doing that, because the market just won't support that level of sales. And the problem is, you know, the more money you're making, the more fun you can have. Like, Trek put on some great, you know, cyclocross GP races right behind the factory. We were like, oh my God,
Yeah.
it was amazing. You know, and they're going to have to, like, you know, really sharpen their pencils, to use an old term, but you know, they've got to figure it out. I'm not sure. I mean, if I was smart enough to tell them what to do, John Burke would probably be asking me what to do, but
Yeah.
he's not, because I don't.
Yeah. Yeah. We're all like, oh. I was just wondering if you had like, well, if they maybe twist the lever here or the knob here.
Yeah.
In my frontline perspective, and when I say that, you know, retail facing with my community and dealing with people that ride the actual bikes on a daily basis and work on them, you know, leveraging their shops that they have still left to focus more on the service side of it, the utility community side of it, keep the name still fresh as being part of the community, I think is one perspective.
Yeah.
Because you develop, from that grassroots perspective, you develop followers. And once they believe into the brand, then they're all of a sudden they're like the ambassador of the brand. Like, oh, I ride a Trek, and they have like that sense of pride of doing that. That's part of it. The used market can be leveraged by all their stores. by filtering in a lower price point of refurbished Treks right next to their newer ones. I know it's a little more of a lift, but hey, they have still a couple hundred stores of mechanics that can do a whole bunch of refurbishing in real time in all those locations.
Yeah.
So there's a couple pivot pieces they can do to leverage the retail aspect of it, since they invested so much into it. They need to get some of that return, and they have opportunity to get some of that return there. But as in the product lines, I think it's just people are really going to be price sensitive going to the next year or two.
Well, there's a couple things. A couple things that pop into my head. One is I think they need to. The challenge is I think focus on new stuff, because new stuff always is exciting. And I mean, you look at bicycle magazines; they've always got these reviews of the latest stuff, and they're going way into brands I'd never heard of before. Particularly if you pull in some of the European websites and stuff. So new things are exciting, trying different things, being seen as part of the leading edge of cycling, trying to do that and still stay in business. The problem for, whether it was Trek, Giant, or Specialized, tapping into the used bike market is it's really unpredictable. You do not know what used bike is going to roll through the door. You can't like go buy a size run, maybe once in a blue moon, a size run being like every available size of a particular model. There's that, there's different needs, there's a, doing the good thing, not buying a broken carbon bike, which is pretty challenging right now. It's like, do you have the materials to, the ability to see if there's a crack in there or not? And if it's something that they can stand behind that would stand up to, a legal challenge or a lawsuit or something, some product liability issue. It's not an easy switch. It's easier. I think the shop dealer, you are in a much easier position to kind of move and change around and adapt to that than they are.
Yeah, we can move on a dime. We have.
And I mean, the interesting thing is that Specialized still has, there's still, their headquarters in Morgan Hill in the Bay Area out in California, and they've got a lot of costs there. So it's not like X Labs has. I think they may have an office, maybe some warehousing here, but it's not like product development and stuff like that. It's elsewhere outside the United States, I believe.
I know they have a warehouse here. What I've found from dealers that are selling them, and maybe a small team here in the States that does shows and so forth. But I think everything's still primarily tucked away in China.
I think the things I would like to see is like you're talking about with Walmart. And the Walmart thing is fascinating. Part of what's going on with Walmart is one of the members of the family, they have, I mean, a few years ago they bought the Denver Broncos, just to give you an idea for the amount of money these people have. And one of them is way into cycling. And now Northwest Arkansas, a lot of you out there watching are probably aware that that's really a cool place to go cycling. And when I was working for Urbea, we used to be in Northwest Arkansas. We were in Little Rock,
Okay.
And there was nothing going on. There actually were some really great mountain bike trails pretty close to the Urbea offices in Little Rock. The reason they were there is Tony Karkland, who now runs Cardinal Brands, which is Time, and that's a whole different thing going on over there. But there was nothing going on. But they have made, they keep trying to attract, like the NBDA has meetings and stuff in Arkansas as a result of the investment they've made.
And they talked to Walmart.
Yes, and so Walmart is getting to know the bike market pretty well and looking at it going, gee whiz, if we came out with some more affordable product that we can afford to do and make money on, which Trek, Specialized, Giant may not be able to make that pivot, but they, Walmart can. And I don't know that that's actually the case, but I'm kind of guessing what's happening there. But I would hope that, we've got to do some spade work here to keep building the market. We've got to figure out a way to keep kids engaged if we can, get them on bicycles and pedaling, and not letting a kid go crazy on his little e-moto bike. That I think is a potential there. I think the women's market continues to be important. I think focusing on some of the issues too. You see, safety is still an issue. There's maybe tapping into that more. But I wish I could make a ton of money if I really knew if I could turn the key on. Here's how to turn that ship around.
Yeah. It's like a ship 10 times bigger than a Titanic. I mean,
Yeah.
right now,
Yeah.
especially for some of these companies.
Yeah, I mean, there are some, the things that help keep them afloat is, Trek like Specialized and, a number of other American brands are also sold around the world. And that kind of, there still are problems globally because all these high oil prices affect everybody.
Yeah.
Everybody. I mean, there's a lot of oil in that carbon fiber. There's all oil in your inner tubes, your tires, all that stuff, and then the transportation costs, paint, chemicals, all, a lot of petrochemicals there. But some of them have places, so they've got to look at their business and focus on profitability, and that's challenging.
Yeah. Well, going back to the Walmart part, they are interested of investing more into the cycling market, and not just I think their plans are redoing their bike section in their stores. So they're going to dive into a little bit more because they've always had. I mean, let's be honest. It's like about 80% of the market sold through Walmart, Target, Dick's Sporting Goods. Majority of the market? Yeah, most of the cycling industry is that, and the retail that we know is such a small percentage of the bigger picture. But all those bikes definitely need to be serviced, which is a great pivot to what we do in bike shops, especially this one here. Community first based. AI came up with a great terms like digital forward bike shop community. So they're tying in the social media aspect of what I'm doing, and it's tying what I'm doing to people in real time. And it's a great balance. And the pivots that I've done and had huge successes is the service part, which I've already was doing, and now balloons to what it is now. And seeing and listening to shops across the nation and around the world that chime in on my channel saying, service has become a huge thing because people can't, they're willing to invest to the bikes that they may already have in their garage or buy something used. Case in point, I just worked on a beautiful Specialized S-Works over there with the zebra print, finishing that up. And, those are still, we're going to have a little bark fest, aren't we? Oh, yeah.
Hey, Rocky, come on, buddy.
We got Rocky in the house.
It's
little
my
terrier there.
My little wing dog. Sorry, everybody. One thing that kind of comes to mind, I think, for dealers with used product and repairs right now, I remember coming up with a line at the Denver Spoke when somebody would bring in a bike for repair and we'd be writing it up and they said, I want the full tune-up or maybe a complete overhaul, which at that point was pulling it down, cleaning all the bearings out, everything. Yeah. And, I'd kind of start to make a calculation and, like look at that bike and like, it's like they're starting to, the cost of repair is going to exceed the value of the bike. And the line I came up with, you kind of got them laughing and I'd go, Justin, do you love this bicycle? Because you're about to make an irrational decision.
Well, yeah, that was the case in point. But when you look at the new bikes and they're $1,500 to $2,000, then you're like, whoa,
maybe, but there may be a point where you say, listen, particularly you got to be somewhat careful. Like, if somebody's buying a bike and it just the value isn't there, and maybe they can, you'd have a better used, refurbished bike to sell. But that's, you don't want to do a great tune-up on, God, I'm trying to think of the right term. I don't want to use a pejorative for somebody who we just talked about, but you don't want them to be upset by somebody saying, why did you spend that much money on that bike?
Yeah, I have that conversation with a lot of times, and it's easier to navigate when you bring it as a like your perspectives. Like,
Right.
does this bike have a sentimental value?
Right.
You
my
just want to
dad's
get this
bike or my
to work
mom's bike.
fine, and
Yeah.
you tell them the mountains like, yeah, you might be able to find something in the used market or at Walmart to have it tuned up and be maybe a better bike. But then again, a lot of bikes I do get in are like, they are gems and still very relevant
Oh, yeah.
today.
Yeah.
I did another Specialized Roubaix. They paid somewhere around 400. It's a full carbon bike. They paid me about 300 for parts and labor. So $700 having a full Ultegra carbon bike that was dialed.
Yeah, that's clearly a good value.
I mean,
that's
it's really, and what I've seen in the bike prices in the used market in our neighborhood in Colorado, they're dropping like rocks. You're picking up carbon bikes between 300 to 500.
Right.
You're looking at titanium bikes for 500 to 700.
Right.
I mean, depending on the conditions and all that, that's the scary part of it. But the good part of it is some of those, like that Specialized S-Works I'm working on, dirty as hell, but pristine underneath that dirt. Like, it wasn't ridden,
Yeah.
I mean, at all.
Yeah.
I mean, like, the chain rings have no wear on them.
Yeah, no, there's
it's
some real jewels out there.
Yeah.
I had another thought about that. As you're having that conversation, and it can be kind of a challenging conversation. The one thing is you don't want to belittle your customer.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, absolutely.
If you do, they won't be your customer for very
Absolutely.
long. In fact, boom, they might leave the door. But a lot of times they'd say, hey, listen, we had a brand that's long gone now called Univega, which is kind of our, good bikes, but not a very famous brand.
Yeah.
Back at the old Denver Spoke, and I'd say, hey, why don't you go ride that Rally Sport or whatever it was? Go take it over to Wash Park. I've got your bike here; it's right up. But we're not going to start working on it until later today or tomorrow.
Yeah.
And I'd say about 25% of the time I'd sell that new bicycle to somebody because they'd go, whoa,
Whoa,
that
they don't
shifted
know the
brake,
difference. Yeah.
better than what I had even when it was new. So I just wanted to kind of tuck that little piece in. Again, don't talk down to your customer. Just
absolutely.
sort of bring them along and
Well,
show them the value.
That's changed even with the corporate stores, because even the corporate stores that have a Kool-Aid saying, well, if it's anything over 5 years or whatever there was in the back end saying, oh, you really want to point the customer to the sales floor. And I've had customers that have gone to those corporate stores and go, I felt alienated.
Right,
Like,
right.
I'll never go there again.
Right, they're not listening to you.
And now the corporate has changed. Like, no, we will work on anything that comes in the door, and do not turn them away, and do not point to the sales floor
Right.
at all.
I mean, you want to keep that sales floor shiny and attractive because you want them wandering over there going, like,
Yeah, but the sales department is now a huge defined line. Like, don't you even hint?
Right.
So it's changed there, and I see a lot of shops having super success in their service departments, especially if they're working on e-bikes and e-motors and stuff like that. And the Cell bikes, the X-Lab, is really had huge success in some shops, for sure. And what I'm seeing now is another brand, State Bicycles, out of Arizona. And I've worked on two of them. One was a fixie, and the other one was a gravel bike build up. The gentleman bought just the frame and had all the parts and had me put it all together. You raced it on the FoCo Fondo and seemed to be holding up really well for him. And they have a gravel series of steel chromoly frames for baseline componentry for $999, right at $1,000. And I think that's like, between them and Poseidon, like that $800 to $900, that's attainable to get into a gravel bike and decent componentry. And they do have that one of those steel frames. It's raw, and basically you can see the brazing, and it's just clear coated steel.
Just celebrating
It's just,
steel.
yeah, it's just industrial looking. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
I mean, I saw one on the Bike MS.
Yeah.
One lady rolled by. I'm like, whoa, that's just one of those new states. And I pulled her aside and asked her about it. And, actually the company donated it to her for something. Her story was like some kind of support of something like that. So I was like, oh, so you have a company that's very small that's still doing outreach like that, and then somebody in a completely different state is being influenced by that outreach, which is, I mean, she was talking about that probably through the whole 2-day ride for Bike MS.
Oh, that's cool.
You bring in the name of
Sure.
State Bike to acknowledgement to utility, community, ride, right? That's not your racers. Those are support for Bike MS. It's a charity ride.
Yeah.
And they're, you know, we always see a laundry list of pretty inexpensive bikes, bikes that have not been seen by a mechanic in a good decade, to really nice high-end titanium moots and number 22s and all that.
Yeah.
So you have a huge collage of bikes, and it's always, working those events is always kind of crazy. But going back to that bike brand, they are starting to they are looking outside the box, as well as Silka and Challenge tires, and that they're going to dealer direct versus going through the wholesalers. And why I know this is they're now selling to me, and what they consider a dealer is a lot different than what those wholesalers think a dealer is. So in other words, Silka, Challenge tires, and companies like that are a little more, I have a business license and what have you, like I do, and insurance and everything, just except for the brick and mortar. They're more willing to work and actually open up more accounts. And quite honestly, it's more of a test in my little ecosystem of being a small. This would really work for any other garage shop as well as a mobile. As I did a few tests, and I was like, well, I might sell maybe a couple $100 worth of my costs on tires, maybe this season. I'm on my second order, third order. I'm selling through them a lot faster than I anticipated.
Yeah.
Like, oh, that was not just a risk. It is actually now an investment.
Well, and
Case in point, you're seeing a whole bunch of wheels above me.
Yeah. I think a lot of what we're talking about here, about bringing in a repair and talking to somebody about, is this going to be a good value for you? If you can develop yourself as a trustworthy person, that there's going to be value in what your opinion is about, that bike I might have rolled in there. I mean, there's probably value. You got to be careful because, again, shops like you're like this one-man band. We were joking about that yesterday. You've got so much time in a day, but you don't want to turn people away. Like if they say, hey, Justin, I've got this bike, I want you to look at it and do an evaluation. There's a way that you can do that profitably, because your key thing is getting that customer coming back through your door.
Yeah.
Somebody will come back if they trust you and you steered them in the right direction. It's like, wow, that was a great deal. Or, no, I understand what he was saying. Maybe there's something questionable about that. It'll take X number of dollars to get it where I'd want it to be. Mm-hmm. So and you probably are already doing that. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if somebody were saying, what do you think?
Yeah.
And I think in the past, oh, dude, I got too much going on. And sometimes you flat have too much going on. You can't get to it.
Yeah.
But you want to be open to that, particularly if somebody's looking in the off season. It's a great time to be doing that. It's like, because you've got time to work on it. They've got time to look and think about it, So, yeah, I don't want to belabor that too much.
Yeah, so, bringing into, like you've mentioned, the services, and I've opened up services, like you said, new, right? Well, what new is in the cycling industry for service side of it is wax chains. It's still relatively new compared.
Sure.
I mean, so we're all learning how to make them more efficient, profitable, good for the customer and all that. And the products are coming out are actually pretty phenomenal. Mm-hmm. And it's really, and that's another thing is a package. Like I do a wax chain, and now I sell little Silka bottles. I mean, they're expensive, but they're like, you don't use much of it. And it's the same stuff that you go on that chain.
I would argue that it seems expensive because it's a small bottle, but if you think about what it's doing.
Oh, yeah. There's a value to it.
Right. So, if there's value, then, it may cost more than that, bottle of whatever, maybe a brand I used to work for.
Yeah. They have a bottle of it over there. It smells like it's like cologne for bike shop cologne.
Oh my God, I have to tell you about that. Okay, I'm going to tell you right now. Why not?
Yeah.
So I'm in a shop. So the company I used to work for was WD-40 Bike, which is the WD-40 company, which was a lot tougher sledding than we all realized it was going to be. But great company, was good product.
Yeah, uphill battle on that
Uphill
one.
battle. But I was calling on a dealer. I think it was outside of Seattle, and the guy.
Keep talking.
The guy was saying to me, he says, like, are there pheromones in that stuff? I'm like, what are you talking about? And he said he had an open store, kind of a shop like you had. And he said the women would come in, and they would kind of come up and say, "What's that odor?" I mean, it was pretty hilarious. And
Yeah.
the other thing, the first Interbike we were at, I mean, people literally were taking that, and they were literally. There was a bit of alcohol involved in Interbike, but they were applying it to their bike, because that's, they were part of what sold the original WD-40 is people, you smell WD-40 and all of a sudden it reminds you of your dad, your grandpa, or somebody that you used to work with or something.
Yeah.
So they were trying to follow through with that. But anyway, that was kind of a funny thing. Anyway, we digress into John Bradley's ancient employment history.
Yeah. So the WD-40 has a unique cologne smell to it, which actually I saw a podcast or a video. Old Spice today is not the original formula of Old Spice. And apparently, this two brothers found the chemical recipe for it, and actually is producing the original the cologne of Old Spice.
Huh.
Yeah. So. But scent is huge amongst just everything, from cleaning products to a lot of, it's just even with Adams polishes that are picked up, they'll, a description of everything it does, then it says, smells like bubble gum, or, something, like, why does the scent have to be listed? But apparently it's a huge marketing piece on that. It's just kind of nuts.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Yeah.
I digress too, but
That's all right.
anyway.
That's all right.
But it's, for me, the service part of it, like wax chains, I've gotten into more detailing. I've been doing it for years, but now up the game to the higher level ceramic coatings on your bike frame. So if you buy that $10,000 bike and you wanted to really protect that frame from UV and also contaminants of water and dirt, you definitely want to have something like that done. And, for service departments like mine, we can leverage in the off season to really like, hey, you're going to be off your bike for a couple months, or you're just doing the indoor trainer thing, drop off that nice high-end bike. We can take the time to strip it down, get it all refreshed and ready. That happened to me this year. January 2nd, I had so many appointments booked from previous customers of my community. Booked me out like about a month and a half.
Yeah, I remember.
I was like, holy cow.
Yeah.
And I was thinking like, well, January, here we go. Gonna have to figure out what to do, what I'm gonna be able to sell. Like all of a sudden, and then the weather got really nice, and then it just compounded. So I think I got all the spring repairs done by March, where March started slowing down in April. So I was like, oh, well, this is kind of weird. Then it popped back up and busy again. So it's been on a really weird roller coaster this year, for sure, for the service aspect of it. And therefore, I'm investing a lot more into the service aspect of it, which I'm working on that SaaS product that I'll show you when we're done with the show here, and help streamline that. And I think that's where, talking about the bike shop part of it, through their vendors, they're either selling their floor space now to their brands, like telling those companies like, well, you have this 10 foot, put in whatever you want. I'll pay you when it sells, and your rep comes in and they swap out stuff when they need to be. And that's like a great, way to take a risk and not a risk for these shops, because we are always on a shoestring budget, and we have never enough running capital.
Right.
So if brands want to leverage those floor spaces, they have been doing that. In addition to a lot of that sales floor space is being eaten up by service now, or utility, community,
Whatever's making
whatever they can draw people in, and not the $15,000 bike sitting in the front that just turns people away.
Right.
They're actually trying to make it a lot more inviting. So all the bike shops are doing this whole revamp, refresh.
Yep.
of bringing in more of a, which I love, because that reminds me of the Parker Bikes days of the
Sure.
90s.
Yeah, yeah.
You go in, you're like shop dog, happy people to hang out,
Right.
you feel comfortable. Some places have coffee shops built in.
Yep.
I went into, I forgot the name of the shop, but it's the brand REEB, which is beer spelled backwards in Longmont.
That's Oscar Blues.
Yeah, Oscar Blues.
Yeah.
And I finally was in Longmont. I popped in there, and like, they had a bar, a bike shop, kind of like Road 34, and then they had like you can see in the windows of the manufacturing of welding frames, and the guys
Cool.
back there welding. I was like, I wish this was closer. I'd be here like almost, probably as good as not that close, because I'd be there like almost every other day.
Yeah.
Not that I drink beer, but I mean, it's like a great place to hang out,
Yeah, yeah.
you know, and I talked to the mechanic, and he's a really nice guy, and it's like very inviting. It was like,
Well,
this is a great, it felt homey.
Yeah, I mean, they're looking. I mean, they've got a good thing going. I mean, you know, it's kind of like you want to be, like you say, you want to be part of that. It's like,
Yeah.
this is a cool place to hang out.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's a
like
culture thing.
I can have a great beer, you know, one of the Oscar Blues beers, and I can watch a beautiful. I'm trying to remember the bike. It's REEB,
REEB, yeah.
which is beer spelled backwards.
Yep. And they do mountain and gravel.
Yeah,
Is their focus.
which makes sense, because there's, in fact, a friend of mine lives here in Fort Fun. Loves riding down in Boulder, because he says the gravel roads down there are better maintained. It's probably all those incredibly wealthy people in
Yeah.
Boulder driving the county to
Yeah.
maintain the roads better.
Yeah, they don't want to have their Porsches
But
all
you-
dinged up by bumpy
Yeah,
roads.
You know, that's actually a thing I used to drive with, you know, with dealers, is you want to make sure your place is inviting, and better yet, it's kind of a fun place to go. Either, man, I've been reading about that super cool new bike, whether it might be something affordable, it might be something built out of unobtainium, but wow, it sounds really cool. I wanted to get a look at it, or just you know, I like those guys. I like the vibe. You know, problem is you can't go buy vibe.
Yeah, yeah. Vibe is hard to, that's
Yeah.
like a happy accident, right? In some shops.
I mean, I think there's ways to kind of, you know, give
Nudge
it a
it.
nice nudge, you know,
Yeah.
to get it there. But
Get the right guy or right girl with
well,
the right tattoos or something.
you better like people.
Yeah,
You better have some patience.
yeah.
You better be good working on bikes, you know. But
Yeah.
yeah.
It's a good
it can be
balance
done.
there. Awesome. Well, let's we're at the top of the hour. Let's dive into the chat here, and I'll acknowledge people that
Take a look here.
chimed in. Welcome to the garage, Orion and Aloha, and also Aloha. Welcome back. Howdy to you too. Levitt, love seeing you in here. Howdy to you. Yeah, we got John, our special guest here in Jeep House. Hey, I hope you had a great event out there, and it was I'm drawing a blank now. He is in New York State. He did an event last week. He was out there. It was like kind of cool, checking in. And let's see here. Banana seats were riding for passengers. You ever had anybody on the back of your banana seat?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
on the back of the banana seat.
Back of the banana seat. Yeah.
You know, kind of sometimes I don't know how people fit on the front on those between those butterfly handlebars, because those are pretty. The flat part's pretty narrow before they start.
Well,
to
you know, you got skinny little kids. I'm
Little
sure my
kids.
daughter, you know, can probably fit in one of those. But yeah, I mean, nobody wore helmets. How do we survive? Love it. He's in Europe. And people are caring less about the name of the frame. The internet has informed people and cyclists that want value of their money. That's about, yeah, it really comes down to the dollar line. That's where the X-Labs had a really a big success. And
Sorry, I had to
oh, that's okay.
check my silenced phone here.
Vegan Gut Club, welcome back to the garage. Thank you for chiming in. And then we have Jarvis Smith. Thank you for putting in some comments there. I'm trying to read through this. Trade-in session, universal specs, music quality control. It's good comments here. Let's see here. Oh, Schwinn guy down in Arizona. He says hi to John.
Hi.
he's been around just as probably long as you have.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's been in my chat quite a bit of time. He was talking about, actually, he commented on 2 days ago, I think, on a podcast I had, talking about Schwinn. He was reading some old articles, and back in the 90s, he was talking about Schwinn was complaining about tariffs.
Oh, yeah.
Then.
Yeah.
So that may have been a sore spot there. Oh, we got Precision E-Bike, Josh and Fort Collins here. Neighbors in a chat here in 2463. Welcome back from California. You talked about a shop that's closing in the Bay Area. It's over 101 years old.
Wow.
And it's like, I read the article. For some reason, of course, AI just popped up my Facebook feed and read the article on it. And second or third generation, and just wants to retire and
Yeah.
shut down. They're trying to figure out what they're going to do. If they're going to change up to a different form of the shop, what have you.
That's too bad.
So yeah, it's kind of sad of an iconic shop like that. And I've seen a couple of those, and there's also another one I saw, of a video of a guy up in, I think it was in Canada even. No, it was like Montana, or I don't know. He was like, we're done. Like, we're gonna shut everything down, sell it, and go live in the woods or something like that. I was like, wow, that's pretty, like, I mean, the cycling industry is hard. I mean, it's just.
Well, and if you've got a legacy store like that, unless somebody loves the business,
Mm-hmm.
you got to, and if it's in the Bay Area, my God, the real estate there is probably, you start to look at the continuing or just shutting down and,
Yeah.
selling the shop and, property and all that.
Yeah.
It can be challenging, but, yeah.
Yeah, well, getting closer. Oh, so John has been bugging me about these bottles. You being a sales pitch, put your sales rep hat on and tell me
So I
what am I opening up here?
I went through this kind of trajectory. I started at some point. I actually, I'd rinsed water bottles out. I was using various. My favorite go-to hydration product is Scratch, another Colorado company. But I would look at bottles, and I'd be kind of, I started to be concerned about microplastics. But the thing that really got me is, it's hard to keep some bottles clean, and there's various little fizzy pills you can get to clean your plastic bottles and stuff like that. But the one that really got me was just the whole microplastic things, which is hard for us to avoid. But I started researching, alternatives, and I think different plastic bottle companies come through and they say ours are better than others in that regard, but it's still plastic.
Yeah.
And that led me to what I have here, which used to have a brand name on it.
It's worn off.
It's Bivo, B-I-V-O.
Mm-hmm.
And they are stainless steel bottles. This particular one I have is double insulated, so it's double wall. And if you're a weight weenie, it's a little chunky. But the other thing I like about it, one is it's silicone, which virtually no microplastics. You can put it through the dishwasher if you take it apart properly, which there's good tutorials on the website. But also this blows any plastic insulated bottle away in terms of the length of the time that your liquid will stay cold or cool, which is pretty nice when, like, later this weekend here in northern Colorado, it's looming towards 100 degrees.
Oh my God, yeah.
But they're really good. I mean, it's different. There's some getting used to. I mean, one that you go and grab it and you're used to kind of having that bottle squeeze a little bit, and it doesn't squeeze. I guess if that was really strong, maybe I could squeeze a little bit.
If I could crush stainless steel, I'd be a different talent.
Yes. But to me, it's worth, it's a few more ounces. I mean, at this point, I always say, I don't race anymore. I just race my mouth. That's my line, and I'm not worried about it. I'd much rather have, a good hydration drink in a cool manner out of a great bottle that I don't feel bad about microplastics. So,
Yeah.
yeah, that's sort of my pitch, which led me to Bivo.
Yeah, well, I'm a steel guy. Like I like steel frames,
Yeah.
titanium frames, and all that. I'm converting my fleet over to steel, and then titanium or stainless steel is also so nice. But when I was looking at water bottles about a year ago, I had a few of the Camelback insulated ones, and I'm like, oh wait, I remember back in the day, a Camelback or not Camelback, Polar was a brand out of Boulder
Right.
that we used to carry at the shop. And I was like, oh, maybe we should look into that. Well, that brand's been bought, and they're a different bottle. I bought some bottles of theirs, and I forget the parent company now, but I didn't like how it is really awkward to use, that kind of thing. And this is more of a pour spout system.
It's a gravity feed.
Gravity feed. And after you mentioned it, you're really like, it's really cool. And also, like you said, you can take it apart and put it in a dishwasher. I just got these. I bought these. I mean, this is not a sponsorship by any means. I'm just bought these for myself and my daughter, which I'm surprised she hasn't come out here yet. But she wanted a fancy green one to go with her green Cannondale.
Yeah. So one thing, these are steel, the colored ones. So there's a stainless steel one right there. These are stainless steel but have a silicone coating over them. The thing I noticed, probably one of the things on the early rides, is I was emptying my bottles a lot quicker because the feed is so much, it flows better. You've got to tilt it up.
Yeah.
You can't pull it in. If you suck on it, nothing really happens. But
I should do that anyway. I
Yeah.
really found myself out. I did that anyway. Yeah, when I watched the podcast from MBDA, I was interviewing the owner, and she's the one that came up with the whole idea. And regardless how you feel about microplastics or what have you, I just like the insulation portion of it, where it keeps your water cold or hot. So if you're in the winter and you want something a little bit warmer to drink, you can do that, and also throw it in the dishwasher and just be able to clean it out.
And just what you have to go through to properly clean it, like a lot of plastic bottles, you cannot disassemble it.
Yeah,
And-
and then you have a little science
these little
experiment.
exactly, science experiment. Things growing in there that you take along on the ride. Hey, great ride that time. Oh,
Yeah,
you really crushed that last hill. Your little organisms are talking to you, but this, you can just leave those people alone.
I want my penicillin prescribed to me, not
Right.
through some kind of a growth in my bottle.
There are some things too. You got to be. It is different, like going down to grab, because again, you can't squeeze, which is you notice right away. Two is if you have a very tight-fitting cage, particularly a plastic cage, these silicone ones are a little grabby.
Oh, these guys?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Does this wear off because of that?
No, I mean you can. I have a couple where you can see the stainless steel, but it doesn't. I don't think it actually wears off.
Okay.
It probably does a little bit, but
And you've had yours for a couple of years.
yeah, I mean you can see actually there's a little bit of. So there's the logo
Yeah.
on that one, and there used to be the logo right here
Yeah.
on this one. So I've had it for a while.
Well, it's a small company out east.
Yeah. Big into cross-country skiing.
Yeah, a husband and wife
Yep.
came up with these. It's really a really cool small company store. And the retail on this, I mean, yeah, you kind of think about it at first, but when you start looking at other insulated bottles, it's like maybe $5 or $10 more. And then you have pretty much a forever product that's stainless steel versus the plastics
Right.
kind of thing. So I don't know. I figured I'd give them a try, and
Yeah, I mean, some people won't go for it. Like again, it's if you're a weight weenie.
yeah,
You're not going to win that battle, but they'll be a lot more comfortable. But they're really good products. I really like them. I bought some for my wife. She doesn't ride much, but she's got it by her desk at work, and they're great products. There's actually some people might be aware there actually was they were in the New York Times last winter.
Oh yeah.
About the tariffs, and there was an article saying here's an American-based company, importing the product and what they were going through, and so you can learn more if you want to see what they went through. And I'm glad they are surviving.
Yeah.
I think at this point thriving.
Mm-hmm.
So they hopefully figured that they've got that going.
Yeah, they expanded their product line to now a hockey
Sure.
model.
Yeah.
And talking to my buddy Jack, his son is in the hockey kids leagues.
I mean,
Man, you know.
it could be hockey. It could be, you know, put one in your golf bag.
Oh yeah.
You know, you have a nice cool drink for.
Mm-hmm.
You won't have to wait for the beer cart to show up.
Huh. Rum and cokes, huh?
Could be. No,
It'd be a different experience here in the bike shop. Yeah. Oh, my barking is making you laugh. Or my last making you bark.
Rocky endorses Bivo. as
Yeah,
well.
there you go. Rocky endorses it.
Yeah, aren't you a big guy? Yeah, he's a good boy.
All right. Well, thank you all for hanging out. Thank you, John, for actually sitting with us in person and
That was
talking
fun.
about.
And thanks for bringing my wing dog.
Oh, of
here.
course, of course. My wing dog's inside barking about your wing dog.
Yes.
Well, in any case, yeah, there's a lot of choices and stuff out there, and as a small company, I'm looking at I like smaller brands, and the reason I bring this up, I did an order, and they did give me a pricing as a dealer, and not necessarily thinking I'd be selling very many of these, but I will be doing an interview with the owner.
Yeah.
Hopefully tomorrow. I think I've scheduled and see what they're all about. But anyways,
They're about great bottles.
yeah, good bottles and
Yeah.
stuff. All right, let's see here. Lance Weed is like, because you really work up a sweat golfing, drinking out of a cold bottle.
You do work up a sweat golfing.
Oh, the Schwinn guy, his Yorkie is named Rocky. So I
Hey.
got the Yorkie, you got the name of the Rocky dog. There you go.
Yep.
Our Yorkie is Chip.
Rocky is, in the words of my dearly departed father, he is a hell if I know. That's what breed he is.
Oh yeah.
He's a terrier mix, but he's pretty funny.
Yeah.
He's a good boy. He's a good guy to have on my trips back and forth across the country. So
Yeah, so yeah. Thanks for hanging out with me. Hanging
Good to
out
be
with
here.
Bob the bike rep here. Yeah, that's what a lot of bike reps look like right now.
nice.
Collecting dust, that kind of thing. Well, thank you for my sponsors that actually Basketball Warehouse, as well as Vital Bike Chains and Gravel Threads to get some cool shirts. You'll find discounts of those on my actual website. I did reface my website, so actually it's a lot cooler, and I'll show you what I've done there here in a minute. But yeah, thanks for hanging out with me and the great conversation. Please keep the conversation going in the chat after the live stream if you're watching this, watching this on the replay. And boy, it's already a long day.
Yeah.
Anyway, thanks again, everybody, and I hope everybody has a wonderful week, and we'll see you in the next video. Keep the rubber side down.
Ride your bike.
Ride your bike. Oh yeah, check out this short clip of all the bikes I've worked on in the last 6 months. Let's see if I can get this on the stage.
Amazing.
Yeah, that's all, just for the last 6 months. I took all the pictures that I did. So some of them were for resale, but those were all most of them were for repairs.
Wow.
I'm one busy dude.
You are. You are. All right. Well, I'm going
A few titaniums in there.
to take advantage of your plumbing once more. And my sister's buying burritos.